There have been a number of studies trying to show whether petitionary prayers make a difference. For instance, in the case of hospital patients, to see if they heal faster or something like this. And early studies suggested some positive correlation between petitionary prayer and improved patient health, but more recent studies have suggested that petitionary prayer doesn't make a difference. But you might wonder about these studies and whether it's really reasonable to think that differences that might occur would be due to petitionary prayer, because you don't know who's praying for whom, and you can't prevent people from praying for their friends and family. And so it's kind of unclear whether the setup is initially plausible. Also, it's not like you're trying to test the effect of some physical force like the wind that blows on everybody in the same way. We're talking about God, who's a person who may have reasons of which we're not aware, reasons that might play a role in his decision to heal some person rather than another. I don't think scientifically it makes a lot of sense to think we're going to get a lot of information that way, because we can't study God's reasons scientifically. And this goes to the heart of the question of petitionary prayer, which is, when is a prayer answered? So people often assume that if they pray for something and it happens, then the prayer was answered. But I think this is a little fast. In order for a request to be answered, the request must play some role in the person's decision to do what was requested. So if I ask my neighbor to trim the hedges between my house and his, and he does because I asked, then my request was granted. But if my neighbor was going to do it anyway, and my request played no role in his decision, then my request isn't really answered. It's just a coincidence that I asked and he trimmed the hedges when I asked. In the same way, when we talk about God and prayer, to talk about a prayer being answered means that the request plays some role in God's decision to bring about the thing. So if we don't know what God's reasons are, it'll be very hard for us to tell if something that happens after we pray for it is actually an answer to our prayer from God, or something that just happened after we requested it. I had set out to argue that all petitionary prayers were pointless, but when I got into the details, I couldn't really sustain that case. And so during the writing of the book, actually, my wife contracted breast cancer, and we had friends who were religious who were telling us that they were praying for us and praying for her recovery. And we had friends who were not religious who were sending us their positive thoughts and energies and all their support and their well-wishing. And we wonder sometimes, if our religious friends had not prayed for us, would my wife not have recovered? Or would she have recovered less quickly or less well? And we don't know, and I guess we'll never know, maybe. And then we also wonder about the other friends. If they hadn't sent us their positive support, and their positive energies, would that have made a difference? Would she have not healed as quickly or as well? And we don't know, and maybe we'll never know. But we're deeply grateful for both kinds of support. But writing the book while going through that experience and looking at the arguments carefully, gave the whole thing a kind of practical urgency, trying to figure out what to say about these questions. And in the end, I had to concede that there were cases, in principle, where you can imagine that petitionary prayers would make a difference. And that's kind of the main question of the book. In which cases will we expect to see petitionary prayer make a difference? And in which cases will we expect to see that it wouldn't? And it's a very long story to try to disentangle those cases. That's what the book is about.